And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph, darling. I gotta admit, entrepreneurship is not all roses. What does that mean? Well, when you think about it, why don't more people start businesses? Deep down, they understand that entrepreneurship is not that easy. And I have to admit, they're right. But, okay, so if you're an employee, what happens is that you're basically forced to do things that you don't want to do. Sometimes you really like your job, you're part of the minority, and so you can easily do what you're asked to do. Sometimes your boss is not that close in proximity, so you don't really see them, so it's bearable. And you can kind of get away with doing the minimum and not doing anything else, and then just going home and chilling. And then you have those other jobs where you have to climb the ladder, where you're basically expected to do more than you're paid for a long period of time, but eventually, you get those accolades, you get those promotions, you get the pay, and things like that. So you have, being an employee is not that bad in that sense. And that's from me saying it in terms of, I hate jobs. But entrepreneurship, how is that compared to being an employee? Well, as an entrepreneur, you actually have to discipline yourself, meaning you have to force yourself to do things that you don't want to do. All right? It's easier knowing that you are free to choose which job to take on, but at the same time, you still have bosses, right? I mean, instead of having one boss to report to, you end up having 20 customers or 20 bosses to report to. And if they're not happy, guess what? You have to work harder for them. And you have to make sure that they're happy, just like as an employee would want their boss to be happy so that they don't get fired or they get problems with their job. An entrepreneur has to make sure his boss, his customer, is also happy. And if they're not happy, he might lose their business, and then he has to replace that customer with a new customer, right? Not only that, but an entrepreneur actually, he not only has those 20 bosses, but he even has to develop more bosses, right? Now, once you start duplicating yourself, you start finding, instead of you doing all the integrating of the business, like you've got the vision side of business where you basically, this is what I want to create, this is what I want to do, and then you've got the integration side of business, which is basically, all right, let's get down and dirty and do the job, right? Those are two separate roles. Very often entrepreneurs, they do both of them for a long period of time. But in some ways, you're hindering your growth and you're hindering your revenues when you do that. You need to have someone to integrate and do the vision that you've set out, all right? As the leader, as the vision maker, you need to portray that vision onto your managers, onto your middle leaders, so that they can go integrate that vision, make it happen, and work with the people that you have. And if that happens, then in some ways, you should not ever really see the bosses. The customers that you have should be happy if everything runs the way it's supposed to run. But then again, that's the entrepreneur's job, and he's fully and wholly responsible for everything that goes wrong, and he needs to handle it if it happens. And it happens a lot, right? So owners, they very often want to blame the CEO or blame the integrator, the one who actually puts everything in place, but it's not really there. It's the owners. The owners are the ones to really be responsible for everything that goes wrong. So as an entrepreneur, you'll always get the fire. Okay, so it's not all roses. Not only that, you have to fight, in some ways, the government a lot more than as an employee. Yes, it is a fact that you pay less in taxes as an entrepreneur simply because, you know, you can deduct a lot of stuff from your income, right? I mean, a lot of business expenses like your phone, very often your electricity, a part of your house as an office. You can deduct your car if you travel towards business purposes, and you know, some lunches where you meet other people to promote your business, you know, you can deduct from your income. So when you do that, you end up paying less in taxes than a normal employee who has, you know, who doesn't have any business expenses. So that's one aspect. Instead of paying 25 or 30% in taxes, you know, you might actually get away with paying 15 to 20% in taxes legally if your accountant knows what he's doing. But the other aspect of it is you've got to follow all the rules and regulations that the government sets out for you. An employee doesn't have to worry about that. He just tries to do his job well and that's it. But an entrepreneur, he has to know that everything is in place for the government so that they don't come after him in a sense, right? You don't want to be late on your taxes. You don't want to be late on your, you know, all the other fees or taxes that they want to take from you in your business. And you got to make sure you have all of that under control, in addition to having all those bosses that basically want you to do a job a specific way. And also the regulations, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So there's a lot to be an entrepreneur, right? And not only that, but you've got your bosses, but you also got your people, basically your employees or your freelancers, or all those people who are supposed to do jobs for you, and they're supposed to have replaced you, hopefully. Sometimes they don't do their jobs. Sometimes, you know, they are very new at their job. Sometimes, you know, they're just inexperienced. They haven't had time to get into the whole drill. And basically that's all of business, because business, you want to expand and you've got to expand. So either you expand with people, either people improve, or you've got to get other mediocre people and train them, or you've got to replace yourself with technology or anything else that runs by itself, like an apartment or a business that goes on itself. Like, you get my drift? There's a lot to entrepreneurship. But at the same time as it's not all roses, I would never choose any other way. Why? Just the freedom experience. Man, yes, it is amazing. Yes, it is beautiful to choose when to wake up. And even though you wake up maybe even earlier than normal employees, maybe you wake up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock or 6:30 as an entrepreneur, but you choose. And then on a Wednesday next week, you can choose to sleep in until 12. You understand? Like, it's up to you. You've got that freedom. And yes, if you don't like your boss, the contract that you have, you can change it. You can find someone else, right? You've got that choice. And that's basically what you do as an entrepreneur. You increase your choices and your options. The more options you develop, the more beautiful life becomes as an entrepreneur. Because now those customers want to keep you because you're the best in the business. And they'll pay you a lot to keep you. And not only that, they'll be understanding when some things go wrong. Because, hey, we're all people. But that's the beautiful part of it. And at the same time, not only that, you have the potential, even though it's hard in the beginning, to make 10 times more, 100 times more, 1,000 times more, 1,000,000 times more sometimes than the normal guy in the street. Why? Sometimes you have a huge, like, you develop, okay? It's a personal growth thing. If you grow together with the marketplace, you'll start understanding what the market wants, and then you start giving what the market wants more effectively, and you provide more value to the market because you get experience. You failed, you do something right, and then you failed, and then you do something right. That's entrepreneurship. You got to be okay with failure. And then eventually, you get really good at it. And once you get good at it, in some ways, it's a beautiful life. You know, it's not all roses, but you wouldn't want it any other way, because it's just beautiful being your own boss. Yes, choosing your own people that you want to work with, and showing the way and actually achieving your visions. Not only for the money, but for the people that you're helping. And it's just worth it, guys. It's just worth it to start that path of being an entrepreneur, even though it's not all roses. I wish you luck. This is the Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. I'll see you again tomorrow.